Okay, get ready, because what I am about to tell you is going to completely change the way you think about birds forever. Great horned owls can fly so silently that their prey has absolutely no idea they are coming. None. Zero. Not even a whisper. We are talking about a bird the size of a small dog, with a 4.5-foot wingspan, diving through the air at 30 miles per hour. And it makes less noise than you do when you are trying to sneak out of bed for a midnight snack. That is genuinely terrifying. And today, we are going to find out exactly how they do it. Let us start with something that will blow your mind a little. Sound is made by air moving. When anything moves through the air, it pushes the air out of the way. That pushing creates tiny pressure waves, and those waves travel to your ears, and your brain goes, "Hey, that is a sound." When most birds flap their wings, they push a lot of air very quickly, and that makes a flapping, whooshing noise. You have heard it. Pigeons are basically flying drums. Ducks sound like someone shaking a sheet. Even a sparrow makes a little flutter sound when it takes off, but a great horned owl? Nothing. Silence, like a ghost in feathers. So how does that work? The answer is actually 3 different tricks happening all at the same time, and each one is more impressive than the last. Trick number 1 is the leading edge of the wing. Most bird wings have a smooth, clean front edge. When air hits that edge during flight, it creates a rushing noise, kind of like when you stick your hand out of a car window. But great horned owls have a very different setup. The feathers along the front edge of their wings have tiny comb-like serrations. That is a fancy word for little jagged teeth, like the edge of a bread knife, but way smaller. When air hits those tiny comb teeth, instead of making one big swooshing sound, the air gets broken up into dozens of tiny little streams. And here is the wild part. Those tiny streams cancel each other out. The sound waves actually collide with each other and destroy each other before they can travel anywhere. Scientists call this noise cancellation. And it is the same technology that fancy headphones use to block out the sound of airplanes. The owl invented it millions of years before humans even thought of it. Trick number 2 is the trailing edge of the wing. This one is equally cool. The back edge of the owl wing is lined with feathers that look almost like fringe, like the tassels you might see on a jacket or a curtain. When most birds flap, the air rushing off the back of their wings creates a turbulent, noisy swirl. But that fringe on an owl wing combs through the turbulence and smooths it out before it can make any sound. It is like the difference between dragging your hand through water and slowly sliding it through with your fingers spread open. One makes a splash. The other barely leaves a ripple. Trick number 3 is the most surprising one of all. The entire surface of a great horned owl's wing is covered in a layer of incredibly soft, velvety feathers. Not just fluffy, actually velvet soft, like a thick carpet. And just like carpet absorbs sound in a room, these feathers absorb the tiny vibrations that would otherwise escape and become noise. The owl is literally wearing a sound studio on its body at all times. Every single feather works together to dampen, smooth, and absorb any sound that tries to escape. The result is what scientists have measured as near-total acoustic silence during flight. When researchers have used sensitive sound equipment to try and detect a flying great horned owl, the owl barely registers at all. It is almost invisible to sound. Now, here is where it gets really interesting for the prey. Mice, voles, rabbits, skunks, and even other birds rely heavily on their hearing to stay alive. A mouse, for example, has incredibly sharp hearing. It can detect the rustle of a leaf, the drip of water, the footstep of a predator from across a field. A mouse's ears are basically a full-time alarm system. But because an owl produces almost no sound during flight, that alarm system never goes off. The mouse is sitting in the grass thinking about mouse stuff, and then the owl arrives. Not gradually, not with any warning, just suddenly there, with talons that can exert pressure of up to 500 pounds per square inch. That is stronger than most humans can squeeze with their entire body weight on a tool. The mouse never heard it coming because there was nothing to hear. Here is a surprising fact that most people do not know. Great horned owls can rotate their heads 270 degrees. That is 3/4 of a full circle. They cannot move their eyeballs at all. Their eyes are totally fixed in place. So to look around, they have to turn their whole head. But here is the thing that makes that even more amazing. Their ears are not symmetrical. One ear is higher on their head than the other. This means sounds arrive at each ear at slightly different times and slightly different volumes depending on where the sound is coming from. Their brain computes the difference between those two signals and uses it to pinpoint the exact location of a sound in 3 dimensions. Not just left or right, but up and down, near or far all at once. They can locate a mouse hiding under 6 inches of snow in total darkness purely by sound. They do not even need to see it. And now for the fact that nobody talks about. Great horned owls are actually one of the only predators on Earth that regularly hunt and eat skunks. Skunks, the smelly ones. The ones that every other animal goes out of its way to avoid. Foxes avoid them. Coyotes avoid them. Even bears give skunks some space. But great horned owls do not care even a little bit. The reason is that owls have almost no sense of smell. Their brain is not wired for it the way mammal brains are. So a skunk sprays, and the owl just keeps going because it literally cannot smell it. Great horned owls are sometimes called the tigers of the sky, but honestly, they might deserve a different title. Something like the animal that thinks your best defense is absolutely hilarious. Let us also talk about how patient these owls are. A great horned owl will sit in a tree and not move for hours. Hours. Just watching. Just listening. Their feathers are patterned in shades of brown and gray that blend almost perfectly into bark and branches. They are camouflaged. They are silent. They are still. And they are paying attention to every single thing happening below them. Then when they move, the whole ambush lasts about 2 seconds. They drop off the branch, fly silently across the gap, and make contact before their target even processes that something is happening. It is one of the most perfectly designed hunting machines nature has ever produced. And here is the last surprising fact. Baby great horned owls, called owlets, are born without the silent flight feathers. When they first learn to fly, they are actually kind of noisy. They have to grow into their silence. It takes time for all those specialized feathers to come in. So there is this window where a young owl is fumbling around, making noise, learning how to be a predator, while the parents watch and occasionally bring food. Eventually, the feathers fill in, the comb structures develop, the velvet layer grows, and one day the owlet takes off and makes almost no sound at all. It has become what it was always going to be, something that moves through the night like it was never there. Great horned owls have been perfecting this for millions of years. And every single part of them, from the tips of their comb feathers to the asymmetry of their ears, is working together toward one single goal: to arrive without warning. The skies are quieter than you think, and something is watching. Now I want to hear from you. If you could have one animal superpower, would you choose perfect silence like an owl or something else entirely? Drop it in the comments and let us see what everybody picks.